Our global waste management system is broken. According to the United Nations Environment Program, every year around the globe, more than 2 billion tons of municipal solid waste is generated. As our growing economies continue to grow around the world, consumption and production are growing in patterns that are unsustainable. Today, between 2020 and 2050, that 2 billion tons number I just shared will grow by 56% if we continue business as usual. This means more landfills in your community, more pollution affecting your public health, and more greenhouse gas emissions. This is why in that same report, the United Nations Environment Program made a call to action to the international communities to regard waste and resource management as a key contributor to sustainable development and to climate change mitigation. There are a variety of reasons why our system is broken, and chief among that is the lack of attention and investments. Today, just 9% of our plastic waste globally is recycled. 17% is left incinerated, 20% uncollected, and 46% of that valuable material is dumped in landfills. And that's not okay. The reason why we need to continue to support the work that is happening today is because we do not want to live in a world where by 2050 there could be more trash in the ocean than sea life. But what brings me hope today is that there are 20 million informal waste workers around the globe who are supporting this work and addressing this issue every single day. With very little support and resource and below minimum pay wage, they've been responsible for 60% of the recycled materials that goes into the products that we buy today. And there's evidence to show that if we're able to help improve their working conditions and their living income, that they will be able to collect significantly more materials out of the landfills and oceans and the environment and helping us fix this broken system that we have. Every single morning, before the crack of dawn, they're out there collecting recyclable materials out of landfills, out of the streets, out of canals, sometimes out of garbage trucks and garbage cans in the corners of our streets, and sometimes they have even broker agreements with whole communities to take all their recyclables so that it doesn't end up in the landfills. They then sort them and organize them in a manner that can actually be processed by recycling facilities and send it to them for cash for the day that they can use to take care of their families. But every single day, these 20 million people ensure that less and less recycled material ends up in our landfills and in our environment, and are instead regarded as valuable assets that can be transformed back into products for all of us. So who are these 20 million people? They include some of the leaders that our nonprofit organization work collaborates with. They include Tony, a husband and father who lives on the edge of the largest open landfill in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Because of his work and his collaboration with 25 other informal waste workers, 60 tons of plastic waste is removed out of that landfill and back into products that we get to buy. There's also Mrs. Liu in the picture here in the middle. She started collecting after retirement so that she can make ends meet. But today, 100 of her neighbors also bring their recyclables to her so that she can turn that in for money, take care of her family, and also ensure that it doesn't end up in the landfills. And there's Samuel from Agbogbloshie, Ghana, whose work ensures that the migrants who live in his community gets to put food on the table and also send money back home to their families. And there's Nadine, whose story I want to tell you a little bit more about today. In 2010, a 7.0 earthquake hit Haiti in Port-au-Prince, a city built for 1 million people where 4 million people live. Building codes were non-existent, and 300,000 people died under the rubble of that earthquake, with 1.5 million people displaced. That day would change Nadine's life forever. Her husband and father of their 6 children also died under the rubble of that earthquake. For years, her husband was making money for the family while she took care of their children. And they had a good life together. They were able to put food on the table, roof over their heads, send their kids to school, and have a rainy day fund. But that changed overnight. Nadine found herself needing to make an income to support her family. with a 60% unemployment rate in that country and a resume that wouldn't draw much attention, she knew she needed to get creative. And so she looked around in her community and found an open dump site where every single day this pile of trash gets burned just to make more room for trash the next day. But she learned from her neighbors that some of that trash actually had value to it. And so instead of letting it burn, she started to collect them. From metals to papers to plastics, she would sort them and organize them and turn them in for money. And little by little, she was able to rebuild her family's life, but more importantly, help her community see that trash can actually be a valuable asset and that recycling can be a path to a better future. But in this informal nature, this is how most of the 20 million informal waste collectors get their start. They're looking for opportunities that have a low barrier to entry given their circumstances. They're looking for flexibility in their work. And keep in mind, remember, Nadine needs to take care of her 6 children while she's working, so that flexibility is really, really important to them. And they're also looking for ways that can grow their income by engaging other informal waste workers. So there's an entrepreneurial effort into this work as well. But the informal nature of the work also has its downsides. Unlike its counterpart, informal work has no rules or regulations attached to it, very little enforcement of protection and safety for workers, and lack of traceability and transparency as well. For a lot of the workers, including Nadine and some of her peers, this means that there's work in unsafe and dangerous situations with no protection. It means that they're being paid wages that don't meet the minimum requirements. It means that with the lack of transparency, there's also a lack of voice for the people that work in this space. And then also, they face stigma every single day because this work is seen as undignified. At our organization, WORK, and through our First Mile program, we accompany informal waste workers to improve working and living conditions and a livelihood and bring dignity back into work that positively impacts so many of us. We start by asking them, what is it that they need and what can we do to support them? And together we build and co-design programs and services that would address their needs to improve working conditions and livelihoods. But we were running into roadblocks left and right because we were working in a broken system that did not recognize them as professionals, as key contributors to the work. Without the traceability and the transparency in this workspace, nobody was recognizing them. And we were also working in a system where every single key actor were working independently of each other instead of with each other. And so as an organization, we started to address traceability and transparency in these supply chains. And we started to look at what are the responsible sourcing standards and human rights standards that these workers should have. We assessed them, and we shared that finding with all of the key actors across the value chain, from all of the workers to aggregators to recyclers to brand partners. We sit everybody down and talk about the human rights and responsible sourcing issues that our workers are facing so that we can co-design solutions and implement them together, which then we monitor and evaluate and make improvement process. Together with our recycling facilities and our brand partners and our workers, we're proud to be able to have addressed and removed millions of plastic wastes out of the environment. But what's more important to us as an organization, that simultaneously, we've also been able to improve the working conditions and lives and livelihoods for thousands of workers. But the system isn't just us. It isn't just our workers, our recyclers, processing facilities, the technology that we need to use. It includes a critical player, you guys, the consumers. Because as much as we want our recycling facilities and our brand partners to care about the people as much as they care about the environment, the system would not work if our consumers didn't value the same. The hope that Nadine holds on to every single day as she's out in the landfills collecting this material is that somebody will buy this so that she can continue to put food on the table and care for her family and also improve the environment in her community as well. And this means that when you're in the store and you're looking at products and you're buying the eco-friendly version and the worker-friendly version, you're effectively helping us to transform the system. You're signaling to brands that they should continue to do what's right, who then begins to signal to manufacturers and to recyclers that they should collect and recycle responsibly, and source responsibly as well. What this means for Nadine, it's not just that she can put food on the table by doing this work in collection. She can actually improve the volume of material that's being collected today. So remember that 9% number? Nadine and her 20 million peers are critical in order for us to actually raise that 9% number and lower that 46% number that's going into the landfills today. What this also means for Nadine is that it's not just allowing her to put food on the table and care for her families today, but it's also allowed her to send her eldest child to college in a country where just 1% of students make it to college. In addition to that, it's allowed her to build a business in her community and engage 39 other collectors, and ensuring that they have an income, but also that they are able to improve the environment in which they live in. So the next time you go to the grocery store and you're looking at a product and you want to buy a product and you're looking at the eco-friendly and the recyclable packaging, I hope that you'll also consider Nadine and the 20 million informal waste workers out there. Because if we're to have a shot at rebuilding the system, they're the people that we want to invest in. And as you allow your agency and choice to make the choice that allows Nadine and her peers to also have an agency and choice in their lives, I want you to think about that it's more than that, it's beyond that. It's also about the fact that these are the very people we need to invest in to fix our system, so that not only allows them to put food on the table and have dignified jobs, but allows us to have improved environment to live in as well. Thank you.